So, switching gears here a little bit, and again, I think I said this last time, I need to try and do some clips from these streams and actually put them on YouTube, because my YouTube is definitely slacking right now. But this is going to be a really quick overview of what's happening in the Keyforge Premier League. So Keyforge Premier League is a league that's been going on for a while. This is the 6th season, I believe, and it's a really cool format. I don't exactly know what else they've done as far as formats, but they're doing where it's basically 2-deck survival. So basically you play one till it loses, and then you play your second one till it loses, but there's basically 3 concurrent brackets of that. So 3 concurrent brackets of 2-deck survival. There are no limitations on the decks except within the 6 decks you have to bring, because you basically bring 2 different decks for each of those brackets. You have to bring one of each, at least one of each of every set in the game. And at the time that this started, there was only the 5 sets, and so you had to basically have one deck that was you could have 2 decks of one set, and then you had to have 5 decks of basically every set. I don't know if I explained that well, but basically for the most part people were bringing the best of the best, and this is an invite only league, so everyone who's in here has won something else on like an online tournament or something that got them into this. So very, very high level decks, very, very high level play. The games themselves are best of 1, which there's been a lot of back and forth even on the Discord for this, on, you know, how good that is as a format. The problem is best of 3 just takes forever, and they have such a long brackets to get through that I think that it makes sense to do best of 1, but it does make the games a little bit swingier. That said, Riku, who is actually in the chat right now, and then was it Algernon that worked on this with you? I think the 2 of you are the main ones who have been working on a lot of the statistics of the decks that have been getting played in this, and it's been really, really interesting. Poor Dark Tidings has really struggled, but there are some DT decks that have done okay, and I think there's some that are still, I don't know if there's any that are still can't sort this, can I? Undefeated. There might be some that just haven't been played yet, but nothing with 3 wins and undefeated. You forgot to update. I can't even do this bit now. It's fine. I don't think things have changed too much. Really, we want to look at maybe top 10, top 15 or so, and we won't look at these decks too long, but one of the really important things to note here is there are decks from every set that are still undefeated or have gone 4 and lost 1. Like, that is awesome. That's what we want to see from Keyforge. They are, you know, Keyforge has been living up to its promises in a sense of they're trying to keep every set evergreen, and a lot of people think Winds of Exchange might change that. We'll see. DT, I think the hard thing with DT is I think it's really, there are super good decks, and I think there will be DT decks doing really good in Vault Tour Philly. So the big thing I want to talk about, why I want to do this, is because Vault Tour Philadelphia is coming up next weekend. I have some friends that are going. I'm not going to be able to go, but just trying to think through what should you expect to see if you're going to go into that playing Archon. Now, this is an international tournament, so these are some of the best decks from around the world. When you go to a Vault Tour, you're going to see maybe a little bit less, or maybe a little bit fewer high-powered decks, except there will be people who don't participate in KFPL that have very good decks, or who haven't even been playing Keyforge for a while, that have seen that Vault Tours are coming back, seen that they have cash prizes, and they're like, oh, I know I have this crazy good deck just sitting around. I'm going to bring it to this Vault Tour and just see how it does. So in that sense, like, you got to look at still some of the power level of these and say, there's a good chance you're going to run into some stuff like this. Hopefully not every match, because there are a lot of people like me who are going as well, who we're just bringing the best we can, hoping we get some good matchups and stuff. But let's just take a look at, let's see, these don't have links, so might just have to do Let's do something like this. Oh, I can't even copy these. Riku, you're killing my bit. Okay, we do have some changes coming in here. That's kind of cool. Why? Just type it in like a peasant. It's okay. I don't know how many of these I'm actually gonna go through. Oh, I can copy this. We're good. We're good. We got it. Found the loophole. Oh, except you're changing things. Now I don't know if I've got all of them. So those two switch. So this one, okay, I think we're still on the same level here. Let's just look at the ones that are undefeated and have played at least 4 games so far, because I think that's going to be a pretty good snapshot of some of the best decks / players in the world. Again, it's very... Keyforge is very matchup dependent. It's a very broad term to call something the best, because it's kind of the best style of the best or a type of the best. And you can even see, we'll see with some of these sasses, like sass might be 92, might be 93. There's some that are in the 70s here. So even if you have kind of a 70 something Worlds Collide that you think is better than it looks, it might be better than it looks. Test it online, play some TCO with it, ask a friend to bring their best deck, or even grab some of these to like play against. If you're playing online and you really want to practice, ask the person you're playing against to just grab one of these decks, throw it in their DOK or in their TCO, and play against it to really see, like, okay, Fruit Anteater, this is a crazy good deck. I just want to see what's its game plan and how does my deck react to that game plan. Don't get super discouraged if you lose a lot to these. Like, losing a bunch before going to a Vault Tour is probably one of the best things you can do, because you know what your weaknesses are. You've kind of gotten unrealistic expectations out of your head, and you're gonna have a good chance, like, you're gonna be able to see what winning lines are of some of these decks, because some of them it's not super obvious. Like a deck like this, for example, especially if you're used to playing on TCO where you get to see like these numbers and stuff, if you just looked at this deck on a like the Archon card, it would be so hard to know that this is a good deck. Like, yeah, there's some really good stuff. Eclectic Inquiry is a great card. Double Ethologica, Dark Amber Vault. Like, yes, we're playing Archon at a Vault Tour. It's a good deck. But seeing it as a deck that is, what is this one? 6-0 against some of the best decks in the world, like, that's crazy. I would not look at this deck and think that. Like, double Survey, double Subdue, Hayden Oswin, Researcher, like, this Star Alliance doesn't scream to me as something that is just gonna like roll me. This number, like, it's barely controlling Amber, but yeah, it was 6-0. Like Riku said, it's really smooth and it just flies through the deck. It's doing tons of different things. 22 efficiency is crazy, right? Like, that's gonna do a lot. It probably just vomits creatures, so all these captures are doing well. But like, how to see how it plays, and then see how your deck plays against it. Doesn't mean you're going to beat it every time or whatever, but it is really interesting to see. And like, this is such an interesting deck to look at on here, because this number, none of those are at the threshold that I would expect a Vault Tour contender win deck to be at. Like, it's just not, even with this speed. Like, I have a Mass Mutation deck that has close to this speed, has a lot lower expected Amber, and I think that's part of the problem. It's awful. And this deck, like, I haven't seen this one play, I don't think. Maybe I have. I'd have to go look. I'm sure there's some tapes on there. Also, welcome Data for stream, Zoc. Good to have you here. Sorry, we're close to wrapping down, but I wanted to actually go through some of these decks because I didn't do it last week. Right, Ashitaka as well, owner of this deck, incredible player. And that's something like most of the people in this are incredible players. The pilot is something you're gonna have to take into consideration too when you're playing at a Vault Tour. You're gonna be playing against people that know what they're doing. You can't expect them to make mistakes, but it's gonna be tough for everyone because so much of us are used to playing, especially competitive games, on TCO, where we can look at stuff really fast. We can even look at our draw pile and be like, oh yeah, I remember, I know what cards are in here. Some people that you're going to play against are going to know their deck like the back of their hand. They'll be able to just think through, look at their discard pile, and know exactly what's in their draw pile. But for you, it might take you longer. You might miss something. Like, some of those skills too are just going to be really good to start practicing. You're a good player too, Infrequent. You wouldn't be here if you didn't do something. Even if it is a reversal tournament. You still had to play against a lot of great players. It doesn't diminish anything. Is that the only way you qualified on this, or was there another thing too? I can't remember. Need to have a mistake counter on the TTR stream. Don't put a mistake counter on my stream. Last week was awful. Ask Infrequent. I literally missed... I was playing a Red Baron deck, and I missed forging the red key 4 games in a row. Like, it was so bad. Yeah, but you still played against really good people that day. Like, I don't think you should put yourself down too much. And there's a lot of people, really good players, that have been knocked out already. Like, I don't know how many more. Let's see, we can see over here. Algernon's totally out. Alvad's totally out. Like, both fantastic players. Syzox was a great player. Dr. Sheep has super great decks. I don't know that I've played against Dr. Sheep very much, so I don't know. Like, I think he's a good player. Like, he knows the game well. Easy Galena and Echoito, both very good players. Our own Riku is not out, but close to out. So I mean, yeah, it's a very intense field. Karen is doing very well. I don't know if Karen's going to be at Philadelphia. That'll be interesting. I have a feeling Karen might be gunning for winning that. I mean, everyone who's going is gunning for winning that, but Karen might have already been putting in the work to do it, that maybe a lot of other people aren't doing. When she gets something in her mind, I feel like it's something that goes for it. Right, so that's what I did last week. This wasn't at a Vault Tour. Last week I had a Puzzling Trinket on board, and I had 0 cards left in my deck. And I wanted to do Endless Hordes to make 6 tokens and fight their board away, which would have gained me like 9 amber that they had captured back. And I played a card with an amber pip that I could have used to draw to recycle my deck. And I didn't. And I played Endless Hordes, and I got 0 tokens. And lost. That's another one I need to put that on. Put that on the YouTube too. That game was crazy, but good lessons. Okay, let's keep going through some of these. There's a lot of decks to get through, and we're not even out of the top. So this is a Coda deck. This is what you should expect to see from Coda, probably. Yeah, I mean, you've got Help from Future Self. This one doesn't have the library access, right? But Triple Mother is very tough for a lot of decks to deal with. Yeah, it's super good. Lights Out is great, like different kind of creature control, double control the weak. Double Life Ward is super disruptive. Like just tons of pips, tons of speed. It's doing some stealing. It doesn't have, I guess it's got the effervescent for scaling amber control, but doesn't have like what you'd expect from Coda Shadows with like a too much to protect or something. It's not really doing a ton of taxing except with the does this one have Lash? It doesn't have Lash. 3 Fates. You have to watch out for 3 Fates. That is a extremely good creature control card, especially in this set. Fear, again, that bounce mechanic, so it's good against different kinds of strategies. No artifact control, which is just crazy to me how many of these don't have artifact control, but like something to think about. I would expect in my own decks when I'm looking at them, I would look for something that definitely has artifact control. Looking at these decks, I'm questioning that. And the reason is these decks are just so proactive. It just doesn't matter. Same thing. This one doesn't have it either. This one, I think I looked at this before. This is one of the ones that, maybe not this one. There was one of the Worlds Collide ones that I saw. I was just like dumbstruck. I don't know how the deck is doing so well. Again, it might be the person playing it, but this one, this is what you're going to see from Worlds Collide. Stealth mode, even like the deck we were playing 2 ago. That was the kind of deck you should expect to see in Archon from Worlds Collide. It's got the EE on the fringes, it's got the stealth modes, it's got Chant of Hubris. This one has Tribute, but it's not doing much with the Tribute, but it's going to have a big board of sticky creatures, especially if you have a lot of damage base creature control. Tribune Pompatus can just shut your deck down. You wish yours had more artifact control? Yeah, that's been the hardest with making KFPL or NKFL lineups lately, is like my most proactive decks just don't have artifact control. Right, but JDG brings 2 Quixels in every deck he can, I think. So you just also have to expect that. But again, that's something you might run into. Like, you might run into a double Quixelstone deck game 1, and you might have one of these decks. These are all... I think Anteater probably beats Quixelstone okay. Like, this one doesn't necessarily need creatures. This one, I think, needs creatures. I don't know what this does against double Quixelstone. And maybe it just hasn't gone up against it. Maybe it's doing enough other, like, Amber Pip stuff that I'm not seeing. But I don't know. It seems fairly creature-centric to me. This one, too. Logos especially. Just needs Val. Yeah, you're right. Only 14 creatures. I just feel like for the Amber control, though, I don't know. Yeah. Like I said, it'd be good for me to see this one in action. But Anteater, same thing, only 15 creatures. So really it's more like the Eaton's Jar kind of stuff that I'm surprised more people aren't scared of stuff like that. But I mean, I also think Winds of Exchange will change that. The artifact, like just average artifact quality level in Winds of Exchange is very high. I like the artifacts in Winds of Exchange a lot. I can't wait to see it, Zonk. I wish I was going to be there, but I'm actually not even going to get to watch much of it live because I'll be traveling, but I'm going to watch the VODs from it as much as I can from TTR streaming. I think getting back to this deck. So Worlds Collide, stuff you should expect to see. Warding from Saurians, big Saurians, lots of Amber control. Again, this one could be doing more, but you have the Imperial Scutum, so it can definitely do a lot of stuff. Right, so that's what I was saying too, Riku. Like, this deck is the one that surprised me. I think the Logos especially does not wow me at all for Worlds Collide Logos. Like, double Wormhole Technician, 1 Quant, 1 Igor, 1 Millie. Millie can do pretty well, especially if you're against like Mass Mutation, Board Flood kind of stuff. You can get a lot of value off that. Yeah, Pilot matters a lot, and just reps. And I think that's going to be the really interesting thing. Is I think there will be Winds of Exchange decks at the Vault Tour that can win, but Winds of Exchange decks I think take a ton of reps to get good with, especially the good ones. The sequencing is so important, and so if you're not playing them in person a lot right now to practice, I think you're going to make mistakes that are going to be frustrating. Double transport platform with 4 upgrades is really good though. Ingram Gray is fantastic value. So I think the Star Alliance is really good. If you can get enough value out of like the semi archiving and stuff you have over here, the Star Alliance can do a lot. And then you're going to get some sticky stuff with Saurian. So, I don't know. What's this one out right now? 5-0. So, it's a good deck. But, again, it's kind of one of those things. Like, how does your deck deal with something like this that is artifact dependent, right? These transporter platforms are probably doing a ton as far as the put on sale for 250. Yeah, I mean, they're proving that it's worth it right now, right? Like going 5-0 in this tournament with it, I would say that makes it a $250 deck or close to it. Like it's definitely up there. But that's another one to be interesting to see play. But you need to be able to deal with kind of wide Worlds Collide boards, both with Saurians and Logos. I think wards, you're going to have to be able to deal with wards. This deck is actually doing a lot of warding, which is probably where it makes a lot of its value because its creature control is low, right? Axiom, Phalanx Strike, Zap. Was not fantastic. Petulant Preston. Is that one on this list? I don't know if I know that deck super well, but I would love an offer of like $60 on some of the decks I have for sale. I have one that I think should go for more than that, but I don't think people are buying a ton right now unless they're looking for pods for Alliance. All right, so here's our first AOA. Went 3-1. Gotcha. There was a lot of them that went 3-1, which is still like, again, in this field, that's very respectable. Seacook. Who's a Seacooks? Is this one of Astron's? Yeah. I know Astron's been talking about AOA in this tournament a lot, just that it's still got tons of legs, even if you don't have, this doesn't have what you would expect from AOA, right? There's no margin generosity or key abduction. Again, another one that doesn't have the TMTP in shadows. Man, does this deck blaze. It forges keys so fast. It's got the Neutron Shark, which is kind of a do whatever you need. It's got not crazy efficiency in the Logos, right? You've got the lab work, you've got the Eureka. Standardized testing, I think, is a fantastic card if you're expecting there to be any Winds of Exchange. It deals with so much. But yeah, Sting, the Legacy Dust Pixie is very good with the Nature's Calls. You've got the key charge so that you can get value out of all of that. Is it just the one key sheet? Yeah. If you do things right, you can ZYX Researcher your key charge back on top or into your archives the next turn. So, I mean, yeah, this is like the kind of speed. If you want to test if your deck is controlly enough to stop really fast decks, like, or really fast just like Amber Generation decks, this is probably one of the ones you should play against. Because like even this, like, I don't know if Infernus is fast enough to stop this. It's just gonna go so fast. I know Jupiter has a deck that's like that too, a Coda deck that is just crazy fast. And that's AOA. So we've already covered. We got Mass Mutation, Worlds Collide, or Coda, Worlds Collide, Age of Ascension. We'll go find the DT decks that have done kind of well so we can see one of those. We've got another Mass Mutation here. This is another one that doesn't seem super crazy to me. Legacy Poltergeist is pretty good. Mark of Dis is a crazy value card. Yeah, Fleet. We can look up that one. I don't know if it's... I think that one's been knocked out, right? Let's just go find it over here. I do have one claim to fame in beating this deck in Adaptive. Doesn't say a whole lot. I think it was on like 15 chains, but you know, a win's a win. Karen's I might have that one recorded. That one might be on my YouTube. Or I watched it on one of these streams. Yeah, this one is crazy. Triple Dust Pixie, triple Hunting Witch. It's got plenty of efficiency and logos to set up this stuff. Some stealing and everything in Shadows. The Shadows is fine. It's nothing crazy, but it holds people off keys enough to get the other things going. But yeah, like this is like 30 Amber in a turn kind of decks with the Chota so that you can just forge on that turn. So it's, yeah, also a deck like those two. If you want to make your own little gauntlet, like Zoc was saying, these would be your Amber Rush decks for sure. Okay, let's look at Yapo. Who's this Yapo? I feel like I recognize this name. Aviator. Okay. Can I play against this one? I don't know. So this one, I think one of the big things with this one is One Last Job. And that's a card that I don't think many people are looking out for. It's very strong. It, in the right mass mutation decks, it almost acts like your scaling amber control. So you can look at like the numbers for this deck. 16 amber control is really good. 17 creature control means it's not going to have a problem with Winds of Exchange decks. And then making plenty of amber, right? 7.1 efficiency isn't crazy, especially for mass mutation logos, but you have what you need. You've got Effervescent Principle, you've got Sloppy Lab Work, Lethalogica, Zenzi, double Discombobulator. Discombobulator is another one of those cards that, like, that's going to catch people off guard when you're playing in person. Just stick that on a sticky creature. They're going to be like, all right, he's on 9 amber, I'm going to steal half of it. And then it's just like, nope, because I have the Discombobulator. It's, if you have things that are sitting around like a Cinder, it's a really good card. It's kind of a sleeper card for sure. Rad Penny Secret Needle, yeah, definitely really good. Borrow is really scary. There's a lot of decks that do not want to see that across from them because they rely so much on their artifact. Like even this one, borrowing that Dark Amber Vault in this deck, it's only 5 mutants. The Linus deck, I know the Linus deck because I have lost. Oh no, I think I actually. Oh wait, which Linus deck? I've lost a lot of his, so I know some of them well. Anyways, it's a very good deck. It's still one of the ones that is surprising to me that it's doing as well as it is. 4-0 is really good against this field. I would expect the Borrow has a big part of that. Chinese one, okay, I'll get to it in a second. I think that's the one I banned in NKFL because I should have banned red, but I banned this one instead. Yeah, I don't know. The diss in this one is like decent, but doesn't wow me. So this one surprises me, but the Shadows is very good, so that might be carrying it a lot. Plus Aviators, again, a great player, but everyone on here is great players, so can't just say that for everyone. All right, Leela. This one already has an incredible track record. I don't know if 4 power is a prime. I think that means it won a prime because it'd be 8 power if it won a Vault Tour, right? But I mean 37 and 11, so I think it's won all the way through its like chains or whatever as a coded deck. Pretty crazy. Again, very strong. Yeah. Oh, if you're in the chains. It's only on 13 chains, so it hasn't gone all the way through chains. So this must have been a huge prime. Or I guess a prime combined with the chain bound, but anyways. Oh, okay. I don't know. Regardless, it's done a lot of in-person competitive play. So if you see something like this, that person knows what they're doing with this deck in person. But lots of Coda value. One of the ones that hasn't been hurt too much by kind of loss of value in Coda, I think Restaurant Guntus. If you can win with a Restaurant Guntus lock these days, then more power to you. It's not easy anymore. This person, I'm sure, is... Whose is this? Dick Roland? Yeah. Sure, they're very good at setting it up. Double Ghostly Hand with other stealing is still very good against things like Mass Mutation that doesn't have the Scaling Amber control. You can just do a lot of big turns with that. And then you've got the Key Charge and stuff. Chota with the Regrowth. 17 Amber Pips. 34 total expected Amber. This one, notably, has negative efficiency. I think that's the first one we've seen so far with that. And it doesn't care too much. I think mainly... I feel like I heard some people talking about this one. I think this one is builds the Arise turn with the Restaurant Guntus, Shaffles, that kind of stuff, and Life Ward maybe. So this is the kind of Coda that made me want to almost stop playing when it was just Coda that was out, because I had nothing that could compete with even just this kind of stealing or this kind of Untamed. But I'd still lose to this now, but I understand it and I'm okay with it because this has bad matchups still now. We got next Oakhorn, so another Worlds Collide. This is more what I expect to see from Worlds Collide. Doesn't have the punctuated equilibrium. That's one of the big ones that I would expect to see a little bit more from Worlds Collide or AOA Untamed, especially with the Comm Officer Kirby's. My buddy Dave is going. He really likes that. I don't know if he's playing that at all or not. But that is one of the strategies he's done, is decks that can kind of recycle things like, I don't know if we'll get to that deck or not. It's in here. He's got one that recycles stealth modes and uses Kirby's and PEs to do that, and it's really gross. And so stealth mode, I think, is a big one you'll see from Worlds Collide. Eddies, you're going to see a lot of eddy taxing, probably with some good follow-ups to it. Yeah, the Star Alliance, double Kirby, double Garcia. Doesn't have the transporter platform, but Lay of the Land. Yeah, the Kirby's with like the Nature's Call. The Song of the Wild is really good if you have ways to cheat it in. I feel like I would almost expect the Amber Control to be a little better, and the Creature Control too is interesting. But again, if you're being able to cheat so much with those Kirby's just to get all what you need out, this is just a very solid like Worlds Collide deck, so probably a pretty good representation. I don't know if it'd be a great Gauntlet deck, because I think there's decks that do similar stuff that may be a little bit better, but not much, obviously, because one, if you're Karen, you know how to play this deck well. That's a big part of why it's doing well for sure, is because Karen is piloting it. That makes more sense. Because again, the Worlds Collide ones, I think I'm just not a great judge of World Collide deck strength, and maybe that's where a lot of this is coming from. I see them as looking not as good as they could be, whereas it seems like they should be for how well they're doing, because I'm just not good at evaluating them. But I thought that about a lot of these decks, so maybe I'm just not good at evaluating decks either, which means you probably shouldn't be listening to me. The Neutron Shark is huge, right? That's such a good utility card. Alright, is this Linus Hughes? Yeah, this is the double Rad Penny. Yeah, this deck. I did play against this deck, and I also lost. I think I was pretty close to winning this one, because I think this was against my DT deck, which did the best against him. But yeah, these Rad Pennies are just disgusting. And this is an interesting mass mutation deck. One, it's rated 74 right now. I think with the new updates, it's going to be higher. But two, it's one of the few, I don't feel like there's a ton of mass mutation decks that are real good like comeback decks. I feel like that's more like what Worlds Collide is doing, or even like Dark Tidings, where it's like your opponent forges 2 keys, you're at 0, and then you do all this crazy burst and stuff to like key cheat and win. But I've seen him come back from like opponent on 8 amber with 2 keys, and this you're on like 1 key, and this still comes back and wins. It's crazy. Has the redacted for the key cheat, so if you don't have artifact control, that can just lose you the game. These Rad Pennies, again, super disgusting. Double safe house, so you can basically have both of them anytime you want them. Cyberclone is another one of those utility cards for mass mutation that is super good. Definitely something you need to watch out for in logos lists when you're reading cards, because you may think they have no way to like bounce or kill like a really big creature if you have it like with a Scutum on it and a lot of captured amber. Cyberclone will do it, and it's a creature, so it gets around things like stealth modes and stuff like that. The Untamed, I think, is where it's a little bit not quite as good, except it's got ways to get a lot of pips. It's got Reclaim, so it's doing its own artifact control. Low Dawn shuffles them back in, which is not great, but Commune, it can start really fast if it wants to too. So yeah, very solid mass mutation deck. I would not go into the Vault Tour expecting to see Rad Pennies that look like this. This is very rare for both of them to have so many pips on them like that, but this house combination is something you should probably expect to see for sure in mass mutation. Okay, what else do we got? Hero. We'll do a couple more. I gotta get off soon, but this is cool. Cool stuff to look at. Let's find what's the highest DT. Man, DTs just keep dropping. Got one from Holy Stew. I actually played Holy Stew this morning in Adaptive and got slaughtered. And let's get a couple more AOA too, just to see what those are looking like. Okay, so Snooki, this is Elena. Not sure if they're wanting to go by Nova or Elena anymore. I know they changed their name on DOK, but regardless, creator of DOK, super, super good player. Very, very knowledgeable about the game. I don't know, if you all see any others on here that you think are worth pulling, we can grab a Riku deck. I think I've seen this one. I like this one a lot, actually. If this is the one I'm thinking of. Hero, we've got another. This was another Linasu one. Coda deck. The Maverick. He's got the cards that shouldn't be in the house in Untamed that are just killer. So he's got the Dust Pixie in the other one, and then this one. I have played against this one too. Maverick Total Recall in Untamed with 2 Dust Pixies and Phlox'em. Like, just so much burst. You got plenty of ways to build up to the turn. You can Arise your Untamed if you need to, but Arising the Dis isn't too bad. Guilty Hearts for all the capture you're going to see in Mass Mutation and stuff. Yeah, very, very good deck. Again, I think this one probably has more counterplay to it than some other the Coda we've seen, but again, this could go more on that, like, just straight burst kind of decks that you'd be seeing. Which I think, like, there's going to be a lot of very high expected Amber decks that get pretty far in the tournament because there's not a ton of great answers still. And I think a lot of the ones we did have are going to be pushed out by decks having to have higher creature control now. All right, here's a DT. This is Madeline, Holy Stew. Another good example of a rush deck. I don't know why its thing is so low, because we've got double Waste Knot with double Gruin. Mushroom Man is really great with the Waste Knots. You've got Bren the Fanatics you can hit with the Waste Knots. You've got double Bouncing Death Quirk, which is great creature control. Could be a little bit higher efficiency in the Logos. I think the Logos, like, there are definitely much better Logos pods in Dark Tidings. But obviously it's doing well enough, right? Or it did for a little bit. This Shadows is very, very good. Lots of ways to kill your Brens. Ransom is a sneaky, very good card. But this Untamed is just gas. It's just so much gas. Reaper So probably has some good synergies in here, especially like PI Sweven or something. So, yeah. That one's scary. For sure. Snooki, so this is another, do we say Karen? Or no, this is not Karen, Elena. This is Elena's deck, right? Yeah. Triple Miasma, Sack of Coins. So this is the deck that took out Caruso. That one I do have on YouTube for sure. So Dave C's Caruso deck, 5 Edai. This is the one that beat it. It was very close, and I think Elena would say that's not the way this is going to go every time, but it was a masterclass in how to beat that deck. Get a bunch of Amber, make sure all of the Eddies are down at once, and then Sack of Coins them. Just forge all 3 keys basically right after that, or at least 2, because I know they had the first one. But this is, again, lots of efficiency in the Logos. This one also does not have the library access, so that's interesting. Interesting to see that some of these Coda decks don't have the library access. So we've kind of moved away from the decks that used to be lands that obviously that doesn't work anymore, but are still kind of bringing those. I know some of them still exist, but this is going a different way. Nature's Call, I think, is going to be a card you have to expect to see a lot of, which is unfortunate because it's a very unfun and very good card to play against. It is super, super strong. Can set up Life Web turns if you bounce stuff and then you want to play them back down the next turn. Has the Glimmer to get stuff back. These numbers are hilarious. No board wipe, no scaling control, and no key cheats. It's just fast. Miasmas in one sense can almost act like a key cheat, because a lot of times you get into the end of the game and it's just like, well, I could forge right now, but they're gonna forge. And so either key cheat does that or you just stop them from forging. They just get punished by key cheats, but we haven't seen a ton of key cheats, so I don't know if we'll see that as like a big archetype or not at the Vault Tour. Yeah, this is Riku's deck. I love this one. Quad Helper Bot with Martian Generosity and Key Abduction. Sting, routine jobs. It's just brutal. No artifact control, so this is one of those ones that does not want to see an Eaton's Jar. It might still win past it because it's got so much tech, like the Dysania, it's got the Archimedes. You can archive a bunch of this with Bouncing Death Quark and Archimedes. It's, yeah, really, really cool deck. For Helper Bots is like, I feel like that's what this is like. You'll probably get higher offers from people wanting alliance decks than anything else. Not that you're selling this, but this is the kind of stuff like people who want to do really well in alliance would pay probably like several $100s just for this pod. So if you guys have your Helper Bot decks out there. Next game is against Eaton Jar. We'll see. It depends on how fast they are. Like, one, how soon they get it on the board, right? Because you have 4 of these, you're probably getting 1 or 2 down before they go. But I mean, yeah, we'll see. Good luck to you. I love this deck. I think it's awesome. It's terrifying. I don't love Jenka, but for how few of them we see in this top list, yeah, that's really cool. What else do we got? Astron has a second AOA one in here. I know we've looked at a lot of AOA now, but let's look at another MM. What other MMs? Shaka's got some really high up there MMs. The Mars is the weakest, except that it enables the Jenka, right? Like, but yeah, the creatures and stuff are not anything impressive. So your goal is probably just to archive or discard most of the, or yeah, just get them out there and do other stuff. Okay, so this is our other Astron AOA deck. Again, very high competitive numbers here. I don't know what power level 5 means. It's done a prime and more, or chainbound and more. Double Exhume, triple Ronnie, Throwing Stars, double standardized testing, again, I think is fantastic. Double 3 Fates is super scary. Graft, so it can punish the really big, like if you play big Amber Control against it, you can punish it. Double Cutthroat with Graft is really good. Top 16 out of Vault Tour. Cool, thanks, Doc. Yeah, this is just value. Everywhere you look, it's just a decent card. No super huge crazy combos, because this doesn't even have Binate, right? So it doesn't even have the Brig combo, but doesn't really need it. So you either go to 6 and get stolen from on Ronnie's, you go to 7, get stolen from on Ronnie's, go to 8, get Cutthroat researched, go higher than that, get grafted. Yeah, that's gross. I can see why that's doing well. Yeah, here's another mass mutation with that same house combo we were looking at. Triple Lost in the Woods. Again, like Nature's Call, Lost in the Woods is going to be a very, very strong card that some decks just don't have good answers for. Same with Borrow. You have to be really careful with Borrow. This is a gas deck, right? Very low Amber Control. It does have the EP if it needs to save itself once or twice. Double Sloppy, though, is super good. Or triple Sloppy. It doesn't have the autoencoder, which is funny. I don't know that many of the mass mutation ones we've looked at have had autoencoder either. The first one had the Dav. I don't remember if it had autoencoder though. This one does have the key cheat though. Does it have a way to kill the key cheat or kill the frog? Savage Clash with the Gloriana's Attendant. So you're probably just archiving these two in the Savage Clash, and then you have plenty of bits. So you're not worried about that. 2 Bone things. We don't have a safe house in this one, but this is kind of like the cards you play while you're trying to set up your other stuff, basically. Forge Compiler is another one of those cards that, like, I know there's a lot of artifacts that make me want to bring artifact control. Forge compiler is terrifying. The right decks with this, if they're like sins or lots of like Saurian stuff, Forge compiler can do so much stuff. And so having the ping damage, ways to kind of like do a lot of double damage to things or whatever is going to be really important. Creature control, I think, is going to be, you have to have enough creature control. It's hard to say what enough is, but Forge compiler scares me. In this deck, I would say it doesn't scare me a ton. The shadows, you can get a decent sized board out there, but you don't even want your bone things to get warded most of the time. You don't really care about warding your untamed except the Fandangle, so in this deck it's not crazy scary, but there are some decks. So let's see where we're at. I do want to look at a couple. Oh, there's no other 3-0s. Sultan, is that the double Quixel? I thought the double Quixel was deck, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's look at one more. Are there any undefeated DT decks? No. Well, there is this one, but it's only played one game. Card or Falcon Sight is another really good one. Yeah, let's look at that one. That's an Aurora deck. That's another case of like the deck is okay, but the pilot makes it so good. Okay, so this is not. Yeah, this is probably what I would put if you're making a gauntlet. I should have kept a list to make kind of like a 5-deck gauntlet or whatever. This is what I'd probably put as your like gauntlet deck for Worlds Collide. Lots of taxing, tributes to kind of hold off keys, the too much to protect to punish any kind of like going past 6 or killing the stuff that was tributed onto. Ronnie to follow up the TMTP and the. Let's see. Is there another? Is that your only follow up to that? That's probably one of the weaknesses. You might steal him down to 6, but there's only one good way to get him past that. But yeah, Seismo Entanglers are really good against Winds of Exchange, probably. Igor's a fantastic card. Shrix with attributes with Imperial Forge is sometimes just a free key. Like that's super, super good. But yeah, this has a lot of those kind of quintessential power cards from Winds of Exchange. Check. Let's take a look at Falcon Sight quick. Yeah, so Falcon Sight, from what I remember, is another one of those decks that kind of looks like it has really weird stats on it. Like 7 Amber Pips is nothing special, right? 6.9 expected Amber is rough, but it has kind of a inevitable win condition in terms of like how it purges the deck, how it kind of controls Amber and stuff, destroys a lot of Amber. It not having hard artifact control is probably its main weakness, or just getting outraced before it can get its like stuff going. But that is kind of a dis thing you'll probably expect to see, is these sort of like inevitable win conditions. I don't remember if this one self-purges or not, but that is something you'll probably see, is the decks that play enough artifacts self-purge enough to where they're basically just playing the same cards over and over. I don't know if we have a good example of that in here. Anyways, some really awesome stuff going on here. I'm really excited to see what the finals end up looking like. I don't know how close we are. The loser brackets will just take so long to play through. I think we're a ways off from these finishing, unfortunately. Got Karen and either Elena or Astron gonna be getting to almost the finals of the winners bracket in A, which makes sense. Those are some of the big ones we saw. Let's see where the loser bracket is on this one. This one's actually made it a little ways, but yeah, so many games left to play to get these people back in, and then they still have to do this stuff. So lots of matches left to play. Got Ashitaka going down here. I wonder what deck that is. They've won. Did we look at that deck from Ashitaka? Oh, is that Ortiz? That's probably Ortiz, huh? So that's one of the few that's 5-0. This one we've got Elena coming again. Ishiyaka, Aviators coming up. I think we looked at some of those decks. Losers bracket, we've got still a lot of games to get through. Unfortunately. Even not coming all the way back down here to Brobnar and Joker. This one we've got Nunzio and Linus Sue. Making it up to that winner's bracket, kind of semifinals. And then this one is the least played games in the losers bracket. So, man, still going to be so much more to see by the end of this. Going to be really interesting. Anyways, thank you so much for everyone who stuck around. Thank you everyone who came and watched today. It's been a lot of fun. I love playing Winds of Exchange, except for this deck. No. Where'd it go? So there's a deck I don't like playing. Crocuthus. We don't like that deck, but we do like Winds of Exchange overall. It's been a lot of fun. I can't wait to see how Winds of Exchange stacks up against these decks in the next couple months, because I really don't know. Some people would say it's going to make a lot of these decks irrelevant. That's not been my experience so far. I think it's good. It has a high average, kind of like Mass Mutation did. Is it going to beat these kind of decks, though? I really don't know. But excited to see what happens at Philly. But yeah, if you're interested in kind of practicing for Philly, I know there's only like a week now, but those are some of the decks you should definitely be taking a look at. If you want the link to this, find me on Discord and I can send it to you. Otherwise, it's on the KFPL Discord. And again, huge thanks to Riku and Algernon for putting this together, because these stats are like, I love stats like this. It's great stuff.